Baseball, that somewhere is the minors. The breakout stars,
Early on in day 3 of the draft, the Pirates called.
the wild moments, and the prospects you need to know about.
A sub-3 ERA in both single and double A.
This is Minor League Weekly, your inside look at the future of the game. Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Minor League Weekly on the Minor League Minute YouTube channel. You can also catch us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, as well as the full podcast back on YouTube once this thing wraps up. We're live every Monday around 7:15 p.m. Central Time. I'm Cory Sparks, joined by just Sam Strash today as we put a bow on 2025. Sam, any New Year's plans coming up for you?
No, just watching college football and rotting on the couch. Can't really go wrong with that.
There you go. I know we were talking before we started today. You know, a lot of bowl games going on. You and I are in Wisconsin, so we don't have a whole lot of reason to really be invested in this time of year because Badgers unfortunately went 4-8, but that is what it is. All right, we'll get to our headlines right away here as we look back on 2025 and look ahead to 2026. You'll see there are a few things kind of themed when it comes to alternate identities that we're going to go over and a lot of good stuff there. But for headlines, the first thing we're going to cover is something that happened about a week ago. The Boston Red Sox traded for Willson Contreras in exchange for a bit of a prospect haul. Hunter Dommins, Yoiker Fajardo, Blake Alta, and cash considerations. Sam, I'm going to tee it up to you right away. I know the dust has kind of settled. We're able to break everything down here and look at this trade bolt for bolt. Who won it, do you think, as you start to look back at this thing?
So I'm going to ride St. Louis here. I have St. Louis as the winner, and it seems like Chaim Bloom just kind of wants to create the St. Louis Red Sox in a way. But I'm going to side with him here. He's been making some solid moves, like adding 3 of St. Louis's top 30 prospects in 3 trades with his old team now, which includes in this last one with Yoiker Fajardo, who's now St. Louis's number 9 prospect. They added Blaze Jordan in a trade with Steven Matz at last year's deadline. He's now St. Louis's number 20. I thought about that as a good move for them simply because they didn't have really any corner infielders in that top 30. And then adding Brandon Clark and Richard Fitz for Sonny Gray. So they've been making some solid moves to add to their minor league depth. In my mind, any time that you can add the best future piece to a deal, especially in a deal that you sold a piece in, you're winning the trade. And I think that both Hunter Dobbins and Yoiker Fajardo could be seen as those winning pieces. And just in general, the return's kind of steep for a 2.5 WAR player if you're Boston, right? I mean, Willson Contreras is mostly bat now. He's not really much of a defensive asset anymore. He'll play first base, but he's not much elsewhere, right? As for the return now, Hunter Dobbins was expected to compete for the final spot in Boston's rotation this year, and I think he's just instantly taking over as a replacement for Miles Mikolas, who had a really rough past 3 seasons. It looks like he's going to be out the door of Major League Baseball as is, and you have to ask yourself, too, if you're St. Louis, is Michael McGreevy really that good? Right? Is he really that good that you can justify keeping him in the rotation? I don't think so. I think Hunter Dobbins is going to end up being the probably the 3 option in this rotation this year, maybe even the 2. This is a rotation that only had a 1.4 WAR from one of their rotation guys last year. That was their highest WAR season in their rotation. That was Sonny Gray, who's no longer on the team. Matthew Liberatore was the only other starter to have a WAR above 1, and his was 1 on the dot. So, and Hunter Dobbins had a great start to the year last year. I like where he's going. And we talked a lot about, if you go to last week's video, we talked a lot about Yoiker Fajardo. But again, for his 2025 stats, for those who forgot or weren't with us last week, this is across the Florida Complex Red Sox and the Salem Ridge Yaks at Class A. 19 games, 17 of them starts, 52 hits, 27 walks, 83 strikeouts, opponent batting average at 204 and a whip of 1.1. Right? The physical game is great. Boston sports writers, specifically, let me find his name, Ian Kandal, SoxProspects.com, said that in Craig Breslow's ideal world, right, he needs outgetters on the mound by the fastball and by inside the strike zone. He needs zone swing and misses. something that both Dobbins and Fajardo just don't have right now. Same thing goes for Blake Aida, who he's got solid breaking stuff, but again, he's another guy that just doesn't have that out pitch in the zone. And that's what Craig Breslow wants his team to be built around. Look at Garrett Crochet. Look at Aroldis Chapman. There's a reason they're in Tarek Skubal trade talks, because all those guys have the in-the-zone out pitch. Kandal says that he has Aida as, quote, a pretty decent reliever in the future, which is really something that any team could use at any given point. So I like the return here for St. Louis, and then cash considerations, enough said. It's extra cash on hand. I'm giving them an A- here. I really am. It's a slow step below because I think you could have gotten a little bit better in the prospect department, but they opted for the big league arm instead. So I'm giving them an A- here.
You dove into the Red Sox on a past episode in terms of their farm features, some of their top arms, and some of the coincidences you start to see aren't so. It's lengthy lefties like Peyton Tolle, like Connolly Early, who have above average extension and have the out pitch. So I guess even if you're going to overspend a little bit for a catcher that's on the wrong side of 30, a 2.5 WAR player, at least offload where you have a surplus. They've got a lot of pitching right now. So if you're going to be nitpicky, you know who you're not going to let go of. Guys like Tolle, guys like Early. They just traded for Jake Bennett not long ago. Building off of this, I think one of the main critiques of the makeup of the St. Louis Cardinals has been their age. The guys in the big league ball club are over the hill. Think of Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt lately, guys who aren't going to be competing for the big league ball club long term. That puts pressure on a couple of different aspects. Obviously, the draft, you get the trade market when you're going to make some swings, free agency. But really, the elephant in the room is your farm system. You know, what guys are going to be able to provide in that feeder system and produce for you year after year after year. And before you extend them and deal with things like arbitration, who's going to allow you to ball on a budget? Not that this is a huge issue for teams like the Cardinals, but still, having a good farm is never a bad thing. And you look at somebody like Fajardo, it's going to take a couple of years for him to get there, but he's already looking like a promising prospect in low A, untouchable with a 134 batting average against before that in rookie ball. Then he goes to low A, 59 Ks and 51 innings. And usually with these young guys, when you hear upside, great strikeout stuff, a lot of arm side right on the fastball, really good bend on the secondary and tertiary pitch. The breaking balls are nasty. The low end is usually, or the weakness is, I just can't control it. That's not the case with him. And again, so far it's
really
just
not
rookie
there
ball.
for him.
Right. And it's not rookie ball. It's not there so far in low A. He's been well-rounded. He hasn't had these crazy high walk numbers that you see with guys who are supposedly really promising and have a lot of movement on their pitches. So I like that he's able to control it. I think in general, it could allow him to break in. And then just to finish up headlines, Sam, you dropped this in here too. It happened like 30 minutes before we started recording. The Dodgers and Marlins just made a trade.
They did. And it's a 1-for-1 swap, and it involves a guy who was a big league outfielder a couple years ago. He's dealt with some injuries, and he's been on some big minor league stints, including a lot last year with AAA Oklahoma City with the Dodgers. Esteury Ruiz is heading to the Miami Marlins in exchange for Dominican left-handed pitcher Adriano Morera. I'm not sure if he is Dominican, but he was in the DOSL. Mm-hmm. That's what I was trying to get out. He was in the Dominican Summer League last year as a 17-year-old. He's now 18. 3.82 ERA and 10 starts, 35 strikeouts in the Dominican Summer League last year for Adriano Morero in exchange for Esteury Ruiz. And I want Ruiz to just be so good, man. I want him to be so good. He had 16 tanks, 925 OPS last year at AAA Oklahoma City, 67 stolen bases in 2023 as a big leaguer full season with the then Oakland Athletics. The Marlins, they're pretty thin in the outfield right now at the big league level, so they must feel like they can keep that newfound offense that Ruiz had last year at AAA. They feel like they can probably keep that unlocked and make him an everyday contributor at the major league level. So I like this trade for them. And I mean, for the Dodgers, you're just taking a flyer. That's really all you're doing. You're taking a flyer. There's nothing wrong with that. He's 18 years old now. He just turned 18 a couple months ago. Not much is really known about him other than his fastball tops out of 94, which is nice for an 18-year-old playing at the lowest level of pro ball at the moment. I imagine he'll probably start next year at one of the complex leagues. I think the Dodgers complex team is in Arizona. So he'll probably start there, maybe another season in the Dominican League for Morero, but we'll see where that goes. I like this trade both ways. You really can't go wrong either side.
I like that Ruiz, again, has a chance to have an impact at the big league level. He was just straight up blocked. It doesn't really matter what you do in AAA Oklahoma City if you are affiliated with the Dodgers, who have so much talent in the big leagues. Ruiz was so fun in 2023. He actually had the chance to go out and have an impact. Yes, he did have a bit of a downfall in terms of his production going into 2024, and that's why he went back to the minors. But you just mentioned the Marlins outfield being thin, Sam. He's in a similar spot that he was 2 years ago. Even if he's not having a phenomenal season and lighting the world on fire, he's still going to get big league reps because he's just not going to be as blocked as he would have been when he was in the Dodgers system. 16 tanks and an OPS of 925. I looked it up because I'm like, this guy isn't huge, right? He's 5'10",
He's
170.
not a hitter.
Like, that's pretty good
And
power.
He's never been known as a hitter either. And in any system, he started his career in Kansas City's system, and he made his way around with the Padres first. Yep. He was part of the what trade was that? Was that the Josh Hader trade? Yeah, he was part of the Josh Hader trade. Then he came over with Rob Gasser, with Dinelson Lamet, who famously sat in the bullpen for a game and got DFA'd. Didn't even appear with the Brewers. And then he was who's the third guy? There's a third prospect involved. I'm blanking on it right now. But Yesavage Ruiz was part of that. Actually played about 3 games. He made like 3 appearances with the Brewers in 22, and then was part of the William Contreras trade in 2023, where he went to the A's, and that's the reason how the A's got him. He led all of baseball in stolen bases that year. And now if this stick really sticks around, no pun intended, look out. Ruiz, he's an upside defender. He's obviously got ridiculous speed. He's got a good arm out in center field, too. He plays all 3 outfield positions, mostly center. And with his speed, if his pop sticks, he might be an all-star in 2025, and I'm so serious about that.
I think the very least, and this is when you're on a ball club like the Dodgers, you have a really good pinch runner, but the fact that he has a plus glove, he's got a pretty good arm, and possibly some pop. These are the types of prospects, not really a prospect anymore. He's back in AAA last year, but these are the types of talents that you're willing to invest in. And again, if it's just a flyer in exchange, I don't think either team is expecting much, but I would say at least from what we've seen from Yesavage Ruiz in the past, he's got the higher ceiling out of the two. So that could be really fun to follow. We'll move on to risers and fallers. Quick hitter for me here on the riser. Was just kind of combing around on MILB.com. And for riser, I'm going to do the Diamondbacks farm system. Their farm talent was not very good going into 2024. They weren't graded very high. They didn't have a sexy top 5, a hallmark name. They were listed as one of the 9 most improved MLB farm systems as rated by MLB.com. Hung around in the bottom third of the rankings for most of the year prior. Considered an above-average pipeline now in that top 15. I'm curious to see when we get the 2026 rankings not long from now where they will be. But they were a prime example a couple of years ago of a team that seemed like they were in purgatory, hanging around 500, a little below it, and then they flipped everything around in one season. And they operated under the mentality, like teams should in their case scenario, of, all right, we're in the dance. Anything can happen. And they went on a run. They were a couple of games away from doing the unthinkable that actually the Rangers did that year. But Tommy Troy is somebody I have my eye on. He's their top second baseman prospect. Almost looks league ready. Obviously bringing him up because if Ketel Marte were to go somewhere, Tommy Troy is right up there and ready. He's a pure hitter, 289 batting average across double and AAA last year. So good for the Diamondbacks. I don't expect them to spark in the top 10 in the first rankings, but they're in a way better spot than they were a year ago around this time.
Yeah, I like the Diamondbacks system now, and you got to think about the guys they got back from Merrill Kelly and Eugenio Suarez, just to name a couple dudes they sold off last year at the deadline, especially with Tyler Locklear coming over from Seattle in that trade. I like Tyler Locklear as a power bat. The glove's okay too, but we'll have to see a little bit more improvement out of him going into next season. He looks to be probably their opening day first baseman again. He's still got prospect status, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, their farm really improved. They got a few solid arms from the Rangers as well. Blanking on names right now. My riser, can we just bask in the glory that was Connor Griffin's 2025?
Yes.
Right. And
yes,
we look at Connor Griffin from a couple seasons ago, as this dude who could be shortstop, could be a center fielder, could even be at third or second base. And he looks to be nothing more than, his ceiling is, he'll start for a couple seasons. He's like a Ryan Terrio kind of guy. And then he goes 333, 415, 527 slash line across 3 different levels of ball last year. That's a 942 OPS for those of you keeping score at home. 23 doubles, 21 homers. So a 2020 season in just 122 games, 94 RBIs, and 65 stolen bases. So if I'm Pittsburgh right now, throw all of your eggs at Alex Bregman.
Agreed.
Because an infield of Spencer Horwitz, who's starting to come around a little towards the end of the year, Brandon Lau, who you just traded for, Connor Griffin at shortstop, and Alex Bregman around the diamond. That's a lot of offense there. The defense, we'll have to wait and see. Connor Griffin's a good defender. Alex Bregman's notoriously a good defender. Brandon Lau, average. Spencer Horwitz, solid, right? So that left side of the infield is going to be awesome. The right side, you're going to have to bulk them up on defense just a little bit. But that's what you have guys like Nick York and Nick Gonzalez for. Not to mention, you still have Brian Reynolds, O'Neal Cruz, and now Jake Mangum in the outfield, along with the rotation of Paul Skeens. Jared Jones is coming back this year. Bubba Chandler, a full season of Bubba Chandler. Mitch Keller. Braxton Ashcraft was nuts last year for them. And you might get some starts out of number 4 prospect, Hunter Barco, too. Pittsburgh, call me crazy, go in on a big trade target. It's a bullpen arm, awesome. But maybe move Mitch Keller and two to 3 of your litany of shortstop prospects you have, like Termarr Johnson, Sammy Staffura. There's a couple other guys down there as well. Johnny Severino is another name I can think of right now. For, I don't know, Derek Skubal. I mean, this is, we can spitball so many teams that would fit Derek Skubal right now, and no one thinks the Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm here to tell you, Pittsburgh is in one of the best positions in all of Major League Baseball right now. If they are producing in July, Pittsburgh might mess around and make the NLCS next year. They're putting things together the right way, and I think adding a guy, if Connor Griffin has a great spring, because I imagine he's going to get the big league spring training invite. Mm-hmm. He's not on the 40-man yet, but he was so good at AA. Some of his best numbers came at AA Altoona last year.
Yep.
Start him in AAA at Indianapolis, and if he starts producing, go get someone, man. Go get some. Pittsburgh next season is going to be this year's Reds, the surprise playoff team that no one sees coming. But instead of the Reds having to, they had the great displeasure of getting smoked by the Dodgers in the wild card round.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh might win that matchup because their pitching is just that good. I mean, Cincinnati's pitching was awesome, but Pittsburgh's pitching is just that much better. This team is actually, Pittsburgh is going to have a very good ball club for a nice 3 to 4 year stretch. They're going to look very good.
I love the take. One of my better friends is a Pittsburgh Pirates diehard who I've worked with for the last couple of years, and he brought this stat up to me. I had to get the exact numbers to remember it. The reason I get a little worried about them going after someone like a Skubal or a Ketel Marte is you have one or two things that Bob Nutting is going to be able to offer. I've heard that a lot in my office the last couple of years. Either short-term, high per year, or long-term, not a whole lot per year. And what I mean by that is, like, Brian Reynolds has the largest contract ever in Pirates history. He signed an 8-year, $106 million extension in April of 2023. I agree with you, Sam. They have the pitching staff. They have the prospect pipeline to go out there and be an NLDS or even an NLCS threat. Bob Nutting needs to open up his wallet. That could not
just
be
let it
more
happen,
of a need.
Dude.
Go get Marte. Marte would be really.
We talked about this. Yes. Move Brandon Lau to first. That'd be awesome. Or Brandon Lau DH too.
Yep.
We talked about this a couple weeks ago about the A's when we were talking about the Vegas Aviators.
Very similar.
Baseball, there's very few select teams in Major League Baseball that you can say this for, that baseball is better when that team is better, and Pittsburgh's one of them. Pittsburgh, the A's, Toronto, the Cubs, and there's maybe like Kansas City and a handful of other teams. Mm-hmm. You have maybe about 7 or 8 teams that you can genuinely say baseball is better when this team is good, and Pittsburgh is one of them. And they're towards the top of my list too. Watch those playoffs back in the early 2010s when they're chanting Cueto's name, and they got Cueto to balk right there, and then Russell Martin goes gonzo the very next pitch. Baseball is better when the Pittsburgh Pirates are good, and man, they're going to be good this year.
And they're just a couple of splashes away from really doing it, right? And you already have MLB beat reporters for almost every big market team scheming up ways that they can go out and get schemes. You know how you silence every single one of those individuals? Go out there and win 87
Go
games
and sign Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah, go get Kyle Schwarber.
Schwarber's gone, but
right.
Yeah, Schwarber's gone, but you go and I say that because they were in on Schwarber and they were in on him big time. You know, last season, not a lot of people know this, but the 3 teams that finished in the top 3 of the Juan Soto sweepstakes were the Yankees, the Mets, and the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates were his 3rd option last year in free agency, and they offered something similar to what the Yankees offered, which was very close to what the Mets offered. So that Pittsburgh is actually going out there and trying to spend. They are. Bob Nutting is trying to open that pocketbook just a little bit. It's a matter of, do guys actually want to go to Pittsburgh? And I think that now with these couple trades that they're making and the guys they're building up in their farm system, they're actually putting together a somewhat desirable free agent destination. That's why they're in on Kyle Schwarber. That's why they were in on Munetaka Murakami. Mm-hmm. They're in on, I think Zuma Okamoto is going to end up playing in Pittsburgh.
That'd be awesome.
If they don't get Bregman, it's going to be Kazuma Okamoto, and he's another talented slugger from Japan. He's another Murakami coming over, and he's probably going to get more money than Murakami got. His posting period ends sometime next week, I believe. So, Pittsburgh, watch out.
Yeah, great take. And Connor Griffin, really quickly before we go to fallers, you put him and you put Kevin McGonigal up there at 1-2 right now. I would be very careful to say things about this guys who have never debuted in MLB. Those two could be fighting for a batting title in 2 years. That is how good the bat speed is. That is how good the plate discipline is. That's how good the hit tool is. And that's how speedy those guys can be. You brought up 65 stolen bases might be the 3rd most impressive thing about Connor Griffin. And usually that's far and away the most impressive thing about a prospect when they can put up numbers like that. But the fact he gets on base so often, the fact he has the pop, the fact he can do literally everything and get shifted around and play 4 or 5 different positions, that's a lot of fun. My faller is going to be Carlos Narvaez. He comes over from New York to join his bitter rival in the Boston Red Sox. Didn't have a crazy good season, but 15 long balls with a .241 batting average in his first year as a big league starter. Started over 100 games at that backstop position. They DH'd him a couple of times, but he was their primary catcher. Catches 30% of attempted base stealers. One of the better marks in the league last year for his sample size. And here comes the Willson Contreras trade that we just brought up to start this program for you in a deal that they gave up a decent amount of prospects for. That's got to take that's got to allow him or make him take a bit of a hit to his pride. I thought I was progressing well. It was my first full-time gig as a backstop. And you guys just traded a prospect haul for someone who's older than me and someone that you believe is going to be better than me, who, by the way, posted virtually the same WAR as him. So what's the long-term appeal here? I think it's a short-term appeal. It's let's level up and get a better hitter, because I think Narvaez at this point in his career and at this point in Contreras' career has the better arm. He's catching more guys trying to steal. It's just betting on that bat and hoping it goes really well and he plunks a lot of balls off the green monster. So my faller is Carlos Narvaez. He is inevitably losing some opportunity this year unless he goes somewhere else.
Yeah, and you got to remember, too, that they do still have to fill a DH position, though, over in Boston. Willson Contreras is going to be taking I think he'll be taking a lot of the DH reps. So guys like Narvaez and Connor Juan, they're still going to get their ABs, but you're not wrong. They just sent away quite a steep haul to get Willson Contreras for another season or two while he still has a viable bat. Tristan Casas is also coming back this year after the freak injury last season that caused him to miss nearly the entire year. So I think he is definitely a faller, most definitely. And, there wasn't really much known about Carlos Narvaez going into 2025. So who knows, maybe 240 and 15 homers is all you ever get out of him, too. So if you're Craig Breslow, you might as well take the chance when the opportunity's there, because you still have a deep enough farm system to go and get even more guys. We're talking about Tarek Skubal to the Red Sox to make the most ridiculous 1-2 punch in all of baseball with him and Garrett Crochet. Probably the greatest 1-2 punch of just left-handers of all time, if you ask me. I mean, you have to really go back and look through a whole bunch of different arm options. I mean, you can't even really call Andy Pettit and CC Sabathia a 1-2 punch, can you? Right? So like, they're probably just pure lefties, the best 1-2 of all time. If you can bring in Terry Skubal, they still have the depth to be able to do that. So I think what Craig Breslow is doing is good. If you have the opportunity, just go get the guy. And I think that's what they did. They call it in hockey is you get the better puck. This is what happened with the Quinn Hughes trade to the Minnesota Wild a few weeks ago when they made that move. They traded Zeev Buium and a couple other dudes over to Vancouver. And Zeev Buium is probably going to be, in about 4 or 5 years, what Quinn Hughes is right now. But if you're the Wild, why not just go get Quinn Hughes now instead of waiting to see if Zeev Buium will be Quinn Hughes in 4 or 5 years? You have one of the best, most deeply talented rosters in all of hockey. Go get the better puck, right? Same thing here. Go get the better stick. My faller is just MLB free agency continues to disappoint me.
Amen.
The entire process of MLB free agency continues to upset me. There needs to be, we talk about having a cap and floor, right, for salary disparities, which that's still far and away the most glaring issue in baseball. Don't get me wrong. But number 2 on the docket, we need a free agency signing period. It doesn't matter if it's like the end of the winter meetings, like you have from 5 days after the World Series ends till the end of the winter meetings. But you still, like, there's a lot of different things that would need to fall into place. Like, how long do you have on the arbitration guys then? Do you only have like 5 days on the arbitration guys? How many days do you have to renew the contract renewable guys? So, and it goes so on and so forth, right? But maybe January 1st, everyone needs to sign by the end of the new year, right? So, excuse me. But moral of the story here is the NBA, granted, they have a much shorter offseason than Major League Baseball, but the NBA, those guys sign within like the 3 hours after the moratorium opens.
Yep.
So why can't we have something like that in baseball? I'm tired of waiting for Scott Boras clients to let dominoes fall into place before they go sign somewhere.
He just gets to play hardball for weeks. Yeah.
I'm tired. Like Dallas Keuchel signing with the Braves in June one year. Like, dude. You didn't have any spring training. Like, who are you to? Granted, he was a Boras client, so it's really on Scott Boras. Who are you to just hold teams hostage? The teams should be able. The guys got to play. They got to get hired. The teams need to be able to go and sign these guys. You should not be holding team nor player hostage until you get the best commission possible on that contract. Now, get your money. Don't take that the wrong way. Don't get it twisted. I want Scott Boras to get his money because he's great at what he does. But man, I'm tired of waiting to see, like, when you go back to Bryce Harper, Manny Machado a few years ago. I'm tired of waiting to see those guys sign until March.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? Those two should be the first 2 off the board.
There's no sense of urgency. It's just this slow burn that, to your point, you get people who are starting to watch baseball a little more going, can Keuchel play this season? Oh, yeah, he can. He can get signed whenever. Because there's no deadline to hold these players and these agents accountable. It puts all the power on them. And I'm all for it, right? Agents getting theirs, players getting theirs. I know that's the dispute that's going to come up, right? It's going to be front offices like the Pirates and like the A's. I know they're still getting their payments from the luxury tax. But then it's going to be players that want to make Juan Soto money going, no, I want to make sure that I can get mine, for lack of a better phrase. The same concept rules here. If you had this brought up where someone tried to say free agency window, we're making it January 1st. There's your hard deadline, signed by then. You're going to get the pitcher who ends up being an unrestricted free agent in 2026 or 2027 going, is that really necessary? But to your point, Sam, if these guys get hired on in June, they don't get to have spring training. They don't get to take all these live ABs. They don't get to go warm up. They're
just thrust into it.
Yeah, or maybe if you're really lucky, you get a AAA start. If it's like a super unique situation and you have a good rotation at the point and the team is willing to be patient with you, maybe. But no, it's like, oh, you're on the books. You made us wait long enough, buddy. Get in there. So I hate the slow burn. And I think one of the great things about sports still attracting headlines in the offseason, and a great way to do it, is having deadlines. And there's no free agency deadline right now. It's super odd. I don't think it's going to come up in this negotiation period about a year from now, but maybe it will. We didn't expect the bases to get bigger a couple of years ago, and they did. I think it's a blaring issue. You have to hold these agents and these players accountable. Otherwise, no one really wins, other than Scott Boras, who gets this huge commission because he just got 5 or 6 teams in a bidding war that almost made it to the All-Star game.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy stuff.
You got it. Nail on the head.
Yeah. Free agency, I agree. No more slow burn. Give us a deadline. We're going to go on to our third segment. Quick hitter here as well. We look back on 2025, but we also look ahead to 2026. There are 3 different alternate identities that came out on MILB.com, and I figured we just grade them. So you have the Winston-Salem Dash. That's the first one. They're going to come out as the Carolina Reapers. Makes a lot of sense considering the region, the history of the area, obviously the pepper itself. You have a Carolina Reaper. You have a Ghost Pepper. Those are the ones you think of as the hottest options. The logo's been released already. The merch, you're starting to see the decal concepts come out behind it. Sam, what would you rate the Carolina Reapers?
Man, this is an A+ if there ever was one. You got the Grim Reaper with the Carolina Reaper pepper-shaped scythe. I'm playing into the Pepper's region of origin in Carolina, right? The Winston-Salem Dash, North Carolina. I'd consider this a legendary alternate identity. This is what it's all about. I loved when the Timber Rattlers in Appleton did the frozen pizzas last year,
Yep.
kind of like a region tie. I like when these teams do region ties, like how Major League Baseball teams and NBA teams do the City Connect jerseys or the City Editions, right? This is an A+. This is a nice little connection to the region, connection to where the pepper originated from, and I love that they have the scythe as a pepper. The scythe is also like a baseball bat a little bit too, with the knob right there at the end. This is awesome. This is what it's all supposed to be about.
Hand up accountability. I completely misinterpreted this logo until you just explained it right now. So I saw the pepper on the scythe, or the pepper that was the scythe. I thought the person itself, this is going to sound really stupid. If you look the logo up, you can laugh with me and laugh at me. I thought the person was also supposed to be a darker pepper, and then I put in our outline, where are their eyes? It looked like almost a shark to me, and the bottom looked like teeth in the mouth. And so then I was going to ask and dock it to like an A-, where are the eyes and the nose? But if you're a Reaper, you have the cloak and they're hidden. A+. I thank you for going first. I still embarrass myself.
Yeah,
but I misread it. This
is an awesome alternate identity. I would 100%. And I like looking at these. I looked at the whole website list of all the different identities, including the Beloit Skycarp doing one of a road in my girlfriend's family's hometown in Evansville, Wisconsin, Weary Road, the Erie Wearies, and there's a whole history of like different paranormal events and like murders and stuff like that on Weary Road, and they're doing an alt identity called the Beloit Erie Wearies. So I like that one too. The regional ties are awesome, and I also like judging these logos based on how likely would I be to buy a hat with this logo on it. And the next one, the Louisville Humidity, absolutely not.
No,
definitely not.
Doesn't do it for you.
I'm not buying this hat, man. No, I like the tie. It's another regional tie. The humidity, right? We both grew up in the Midwest. We know what it's like in the summer. Living in Wisconsin, at least, you might experience all 4 seasons. Like this week, just in the past couple of days, you might have experienced all 4 seasons in the span of 48 hours. So, likewise, in Kentucky, it's pretty similar, especially northern Kentucky, southern Indiana. That's where Louisville is. That's that metro right there. I'm not a fan. It is sticky in the Midwest in the summer, but I want to enjoy baseball in the summer, not be reminded of how gross I feel to step outside in the heat of August. This is a D for me because it's creative, and it's kind of It's a little pulling at strings, which is fine. You kind of need to dig deep for these alternate identities. But this was not the way to do it.
Yeah, I'm not as big a fan of it either. I went C. I like the logo itself. Like, I like the water dripping down. You can kind of go a couple different directions here and go, oh, are they at a beach? Is that sand there? Oh, is the orange just supposed to represent the heat? And then he's getting refreshed. And I like the little glove holding the baseball. I think I would like the overall concept, and I agree, I'm not buying merch of this, unfortunately. I think it's really unique, but it would not do it for me. I think I'd like it better if the baseball had, like, refreshments, like it was more positive. Like, oh, it's humid. I need to have something to supplement that and help me cool off. I like the logo and the identity art a decent amount, but Jacob also brought this up before. When you go to the wardrobe and the actual jerseys they're going to be wearing, it's pre-painted or pre-printed sweat stains. So you're definitely not buying the jersey. The only reason I'm not going D is because I think this is going to get people to talk. Like, this is so ridiculous. It will start a dialogue. I just don't know if it's the dialogue they're hoping for. But the sweat stains is like, if you ask me just what do you think of what the wardrobe's going to look like and the overall aesthetic of the jersey, yeah, I'm with you. D minus. I don't hate the logo, but the further you dive into the concept, the more you start to go, not a big fan of what that's going to look like whenever they end up debuting these on the diamond, unfortunately. Yeah, I think you and I are in similar spots there. All right, well, I think we have a good sandwich here. The first one was great. The second one, we'll see if it falls flat. It's yet to debut, but they already have the logo out. Third one is the Pensacola Blue Wahoos. They're going to be the Pensacola Sky Jockeys. If you look this one up, it's a plane with some shades on, blue and gold color scheme. What do you think of this one, Sam?
I like this one. I'm giving it an A. I like it, the Carolina Reapers just edges it out for me. Growing up in the Chicago Metro, I've seen the Blue Angels plenty of times in my life. The Chicago Air and Water Show, the Milwaukee Air and Water Show. I've never been to EAA Air Venture in Oshkosh, but I know that they make appearances there regularly. Not every year, but fairly close to that. So just seeing this cartoon version of those awesome jets doing those stunts and tricks over Lake Michigan, I think it would be so cool to wear some merchandise of this. I also like the baseball bats being used as the artillery or the missile launchers on the wings here. And I also think, too, there's a Southern Professional Hockey League team, the Pensacola Ice Flyers. Excuse me, they're the Ice Flyers down in Pensacola. This could be repurposed for them, too. This is a very repurposable logo. They could use hockey sticks instead of the bats there. They already have a plane in their logo. They are based off of the Blue Angels in that area as well. So this is another regional tie. This is something I could see this one being a permanent logo too. This one, unlike the Carolina Reapers, I could see the Sky Jockeys actually being the permanent identity of the Blue Wahoos.
I like that a lot. I am also going to go A. I really like the color scheme. I think the gold pops. And then to kind of give it the eye test that you brought up before, Sam, would I wear this? I would wear this. Like, very frequently. Very frequently. I think it's aesthetically pleasing. Anytime you get the little nods to baseball itself in the logo, which I feel like is a requirement. If you're going to have a good alternate identity, that's good. You mentioned the artillery. Can't tell if that's supposed to be a helmet on the top. But I also am going to give this one bonus points.
That's the
what is that?
When they're flying around, the fighter jets, they have a glass dome over the top. Oh. That's where the pilot sits. And so they can have like a 360 view of everything they're looking at in the sky. So that's that glass dome.
Okay, sick. Well, I think this also gets bonus points because a sky jockey is just a skilled pilot. It's slang for that. But I feel like if someone saw you wearing a shirt that said the Sky Jockeys of Pensacola, it's a good conversation starter. Like, you might get some people literally going, what the hell is that? And then you can explain it to them. You could talk about how Pensacola had this alter ego in 2026, rode with it, really cool merch giveaway. So I'm with you. I'm not quite at Carolina Reaper status, but really, really close. When 2026 is all done and we look back, it's going to be tough to find 4, 5 other logos to bump this out of that top S tier, if you will. So those are your Pensacola Sky Jockeys, the third and final of our alternate identities looking ahead to 2026. More and more to come. We're going to step aside for a quick break, hear about our podcast, where you can find us on all social media platforms, and then we will get to our farm features, rounding out the AL East.
Did you miss the live version of our Minor League Weekly podcast? No worries. We've got you covered at Minor League Minute on YouTube and Minor League Weekly on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Then you can go back to watch or listen to the whole episode for all of your prospect and affiliate ball needs. So what are you waiting for? Go follow, subscribe, and turn on those post notifications to get caught up with the latest. That's Minor League Weekly on all of those platforms.
And we welcome you back to Minor League Weekly on the Minor League YouTube channel. It's time for the Farm Features. We're rounding out our AL East series. We did the other three. It's just myself and Sam here today. I'll kick us off with the Toronto Blue Jays farm system. We'll go top 5, strengths, weaknesses, diamond in the rough. Number 1 is Trey Yesavage. Not going to be on this list much longer. Right-handed pitcher who debuted last year and had the postseason and wire-to-wire story in 2025 of a lifetime. You're going to have to look high and far to find someone who goes from low A to the majors in 1 year, in 1 season. He had a K per 9 mark of almost 15 in minor league baseball. So he did not really give the Blue Jays much of a choice in terms of promoting him over and over and over again. Debuted for Toronto down the stretch and notched a 3-1 postseason record with that tough to time, over-the-top motion on full display. I think he does have, and we've talked about him before, so I won't get too much into it, a spot in Toronto's rotation next year to start, could do some serious damage. I'm excited, as you look at the AL East as a whole, to see him match up against some of those mashers in the AL East, like Aaron Judge, like Pete Alonso, going up against a guy who really has not been figured out by opposing hitters consistently quite yet. Number 2 is JoJo Parker, a shortstop ETA 2029. Still waiting on his professional debut. We'll see that this upcoming summer. He's one of those well-rounded offensive threats. 8th overall pick in the 2025 MLB draft. He earned Gatorade Player of the Year his senior year of high school, and his respective background described as having gap-to-gap power. Scouts could have him for that 20 to 25 home run upside. Is he going to solve the world's problems of the middle infield if Bo Bichette gets traded? No, but long-term, this could be a fun prospect to follow. Again, he is your 3 to 4 year project. Arjun Nimala is another shortstop, ETA 2028, first-round pick from 2023. Sam, he's developed so much. He hit just 200 over a limited sample size in rookie ball that year before getting a full offseason to take that feedback, make adjustments to his posture to better set himself up for power at the plate. That was one of the main critiques, and it worked. Came back in 2024, hit the most home runs in the Florida State League of anybody who was age 18 or younger. Really strong arm at 60 grade. Still working on being more fluid at shortstop, but if he shuffles his feet or makes the wrong move or doesn't pick a ball clean, the strong arm at the level he's playing at right now can make up for that. So we'll see if he gets molded into a different position since he's still pretty early on in his pro ball career.
He's really quick before you keep going. He's a guy that I could 100% see getting the Bo Bichette treatment before making the big leagues. He's a guy that, especially with a guy like JoJo Parker, right in front of him in the prospect rankings, I could see Anomaly being a guy they bump over to second base or even third because of how big his arm is. I feel like moving him to second might be wasting that arm talent just a little bit. So moving him to third base would probably be the most beneficial outcome for him going forward, just to try and get him to the big leagues even just a little bit sooner.
Or is that one even, and their outfield's fine right now, one where you move him to the outfield just to take advantage of the strong arm as opposed to saying, yeah, we'll shift you over to second where you're just wasting the 60 grade tool? Maybe. Yeah,
that's something that they would definitely have to play around with.
Yeah, I could see that. So those are 1, 2, and 3. Number 4 is Ricky Tiedemann, lefty, supposed to debut this upcoming year. Got a professional record of 5-10. Don't be fooled. Really don't even pay attention to that because he's been an every fifth day guy with a 3.02 earned run average over 3 years of pro ball. One of the best fastballs in the minors right now. It's got a 65 grade. That's his primary pitch. It sits 94 to 96, can touch 98, has a little arm side ride off that 3/4 arm slot. And in order to keep that starter status working on a slider and a changeup, those could be the play pitches when he gets the call, right? You got to have a secondary pitch. We talked about somebody just last week in Peyton Tolley when we started out the AL East. He's throwing that fastball 65% of the time. It's going to go well until it doesn't. You got to be able to supplement it. Kind of the same thing here with Tiedemann. It's not that often, but he needs to be able to rely on that slider or rely on that changeup a little more than he has been. The walks have been an issue at times, but just like his big league comp, which is Blake Snell, according to the scout who wrote this profile I was reading earlier, he's got the ability to erase them himself. He can walk a hitter and then strike the next two out. 14.5 K per 9 mark backs up his ability to be unhittable when he's on. Number 5, last but certainly not least, is Johnny King, another southpaw on the mound. ETA is 2028, and the fastball is where it should be, low 90s, but can touch that 95, 96 range. Probably going to be around average in his baseball savant profile when he debuts. The curveball is the disgusting aspect, right? It's got 2-plane break. It's not just dropping, it's sliding too. Kind of a slurve motion for him. The strikeout stuff is there. 105 Ks and 61 2/3 innings pitched. Walks are a huge problem. He has walked 37 batters in that limited sample size. Some of that also stems from him not having a reliable third pitch. Nothing out of the ordinary here for pitchers who are making their way up. They try and develop their mix a little bit more as they get closer to AAA and the bigs. Diamond in the rough, Sam. This is a name that I think we'll be following for a bit. Charles McAdoo. I'm going way down to 15th in their system. He's a corner infielder. Hasn't played a AAA game yet, but MLB.com projects he will start at some point this year, making his way up. 38 home runs over 273 games of professional baseball, 802 OPS, good old-fashioned thrasher. And even though you look down and you go, number 15, you're really digging deep. We talked about the Pirates pipeline before. He was actually a 13th round pick by Pittsburgh, and now he's made his way all the way up to now the Blue Jays, his respective farm systems. Top 30. Main question mark is his glove, but those guys are fun, right? We've brought up names in the past like Davison De Los Santos, where the Blue Jays are going to have a time where they look down into the minors. They see he hit 4 home runs in a week, and they have to go, is it time? And, that's just a worth thing that they're going to have to talk about.
Yeah, I do like Charles McAdoo. Going back to Ricky Tiedemann here, I really like Ricky Tiedemann. Yeah. I think the Blake Snell comparisons physically are a little bit of a stretch, but the strikeout ability is there. Yeah. It's 100% there. 14.5 Ks per 9 is just ridiculous, even in kind of a small stretch of pro ball last year. But I think Toronto's system, we got to graduate Trey Yesavage. He should not be having prospect status right now. He should definitely be. This guy's not starting the year in AAA. He was just pitching high leverage in the World Series. You can't tell me he's still a prospect. Like, let's be so for real, MLB.com. I'm sure when the 2026 system rankings come around and their preseason top 30s drop, they're going to graduate him. There's no way he's still there. Going to Baltimore, though, to close out our American League East farm features before we start I imagine we'll start the NL Central next week.
Yeah.
If my memory serves. To close out the AL East now, Baltimore has 2 prospects in MLB.com's top 100. Number 1 being Samuel Basallo, MLB's number 7. Samuel Basallo? Samuel Basallo, okay. MLB's number 7, catcher, first baseman. Primarily listed as a catcher, 60 grade power, 70 grade arm. Right, this is a guy that's been talked about for about a year plus now, coming up through Baltimore's system, and there's a reason. He's got great numbers in the minor leagues, especially in 76 games at AAA last year. Slash line was 270, 377, 589, a 966 OPS for a catcher, which was the highest mark of his career at any level, minimum 40 games played. Right, big league numbers were a little rough, but there's something to really build upon off of his AAA numbers. He had 17 doubles, 23 homers, so 2020 potential is definitely there. 67 RBIs, 44 walks as well, getting that on-base percentage up, and 76 strikeouts, which is kind of a problem, right? It's a little bit of a problem. He's got a slight lack of plate discipline. I think this is something that if he continues to work on it, that can kind of fizzle out of his game, and the better numbers will continue to shine. And I think the walks will go up a little bit as well, because pitchers will be a little scared to throw to him. He debuted last year, 2025, but I'm still going to give him a projected debut in 2026. And the reason why is, yeah, he got a taste of the big league action, but don't be surprised if Baltimore adds a third catcher to their active roster, or at least to the 40-man by opening day, just to give Basallo some extra reps at AAA. because, and you're going to hear this from me, for probably all 5 prospects, where do you fit all these guys? We've been talking about it for weeks with Baltimore, I feel. For the last 3 episodes of Minor League Weekly, we've talked about Baltimore. Where are you fitting all of these guys? You just added Pete Alonso, and now you're retaining Ryan Mountcastle. So where does Samuel Basayo play? The current catcher is Adley Rutschman. That's the plan, at least. He didn't do so well at AAA last year coming off his injury. The swing looked way out of sorts. I'm not sure what they want to do at catcher right now, but I imagine it's going to be Adley. They've invested a lot of money and time into him. Basayo, though, the beautiful thing about Samuel Basayo is he won't be 22 until August of 2026. So he can afford an extra month or 2 at AAA until we see how the roster shakes out by mid-May, late May, early June of 2026. The Baltimore can afford to do that with the guys they have on their roster. Speaking of, one of those guys on their roster, projected at least for this year, is number 2 prospect in their system, MLB's number 83, Dylan Beavers. We talked about him possibly being a trade candidate as well. We'll get into that in a second. Like Basayo, Beavers got a taste of big league ball in 2025. He fared a little bit better than Basayo at the dish, though. Compared to Basayo's numbers, where he had an OPS sub 600, Beavers had a 775 OPS in 35 games, also hit 4 homers. But like Basayo here, 94 games at AAA Norfolk, he had a 304 average, 420 on base, 515 slug, so 935 OPS, 14 doubles, 18 homers, so 2020 potential there as well, 51 RBIs, 68 walks. Great walk numbers there as well. And he had the same number of strikeouts as Basayo in 18 more games. So there's a lot better plate discipline from Beavers at the dish that would make me think that he's going to end up being the 4th outfielder for this Baltimore Orioles team. He's got a very balanced skill set. He's an above average fielder and runner, decent stick. So in my mind at least, Dylan Beavers is your standard 6th batter in the lineup on any given night. That's what I see out of Dylan Beavers. Maybe even going up to like a 2 or 3 spot as well. He could be the 3 to Pete Alonso's cleanup. So, projected debut again. He debuted in 2025. I'm going to give him a projected debut of myself as well. Again, like I just said, 4th outfielder this season, or he might start elsewhere. He might not be in Baltimore come opening day. I doubt that happens, but there's a realistic chance, a better than 0 chance, that Dylan Beavers could be the starting outfielder of a different organization come opening day. Ike Irish is their number 3 prospect. He's listed as a catcher and outfielder. He sits just outside the top 100, primarily because he's coming off of, at least going into last season, he was coming off of a right shoulder blade fracture that forced him to not catch as much in his 2025 season with Auburn and at Single A Delmarva, I believe he was at. Consider his numbers at Auburn, though, still mashed as a right fielder there. 364, 469, 710 slash line. That's an 1179 OPS in about 55 games. 19 homers, 58 RBIs. Equating that to a full season, that's 60 bombs with a fractured shoulder blade. I mean, are we serious here? This guy's the real deal. He had a rough first season of Pro Ball, 20 games only, though. It's a very small sample size. OPS dropped to just below 600. Still had 17 hits in 20 games, though. 19 strikeouts is a little bit more alarming than his 37 Ks in 55 games with Auburn. Projected debuts 2028 for Ike Irish. I've got him as a late September call-up in 2027. I think 2027 is when he gets the call. And again, it's going to depend on how the roster shakes out. Obviously, Taylor Ward's on 1 year left of his contract with Baltimore. You got a few other guys that you could see getting moved. It really depends on how all of that shakes out. But he is more than talented enough to justify a September 2027 debut as long as he stays healthy. Number 4, I feel like I've been waiting for Enrique Bradfield to debut for a long time.
I love this
I've
guy.
been waiting for him to break out and join the big league roster for a while now. He reminds me of Enrique Bradfield Jr. walked so Chandler Simpson could run, is the way I like to equate this. The bat just won't come around, though. It just refuses to improve as he progresses through the system. I don't know if we're going to see Enrique Bradfield Jr. anytime soon, but the 80 grade speed is legit. He's got a 70 grade arm too. If the bat plays, Enrique Bradfield Jr. might end up being a 2020 or a 60 outfielder. He could be a Costco Ronald Acuna Jr. if the bat starts to pan out, is what I really see Enrique Bradfield Jr. being. No disrespect to him or no disrespect to Ronald Acuna. That's just how I like to compare them. 74 stolen bases in 2024. He finally got some AAA action this year. And like I said, the bat couldn't stay in his hands, really. It felt like he was swinging with no bat. Combining his 2025 numbers, he played a few games with the Complex Orioles, with High A Aberdeen, Double A Chesapeake, and Triple A Norfolk across 76 games this year, most of them at Double A Chesapeake. 242, 348, 348. So an OPS just a couple sticks below 700, which is fine. That's fine. 64 hits, 15 doubles. I like that because he's stretching singles into doubles with all that speed. 3 homers, 41 walks. The plate discipline is pretty good. 66 strikeouts in 76 games. Had 36 stolen bases last year despite the injuries. Projected debut is for this year, 2026. I'm giving it 2027. You got Taylor Ward, you've got Tyler O'Neill, you've got Dylan Beavers, so on and so forth. I just don't see the fit for Enrique Bradfield Jr. quite yet, especially if Leody Taveras has a good spring. And also, can he stay healthy? He's dealt with injuries for a while. He had his first real full season in 2024. Can he stay healthy? I'm not sure. Lastly, number 5, Vahiva Aloy, shortstop, Golden Spikes Award winner at Arkansas in 2025. You thought Ike Irish was good at Auburn? Vahiva Aloy was even better at Arkansas. Remember, some other notable winners of the Golden Spikes Award 2 years ago was Charlie Condon, Georgia, Dylan Cruz at LSU in 2023, Adley Rutschman at Oregon State 2019, Chris Bryant 2013, Bryce Harper at Southern Nevada in 2010, Buster Posey, Florida State in 2008, David Price, Vanderbilt 2007. I'm blanking on where Chris Bryant was in college. Not sure why, but I'm blanking right now.
He was a Vegas
or
kid,
if he even went to college. Yeah, I know that as well.
San Diego.
But anywho.
University of San Diego.
That's right. San Diego University. Not to be confused with the UC San Diego or San Diego State. But in his Golden Spikes Award winning year, Vahiva Aloy had an 1107 OPS, 21 homers, 68 RBI, in 65 games at Arkansas as a shortstop. Now, Ike Irish was doing the same stuff as an outfielder. You kind of expect an outfielder to do those kinds of things. Vahiva Aloy just had, if you equate it to that 162-game season, Vahiva Aloy just hit 60 home runs as a shortstop. That's wicked. That's absolutely wicked. 20 games at Class A Delmarva as well. Had a solid season. 288, 356, 500 slash line, 856 OPS. Hit only 2 homers in his 20 games there, but I imagine it's just getting adjusted to pro ball. He didn't even play rookie ball. Went straight to Class A Delmarva. Projected debut 2028. My projected debut for him, I'm probably going to just ride 2028 as well because Gunnar Henderson exists. Jackson Holiday exists. Kobe Mayo, Heston Kjerstad. It's the same song and dance. Where do these guys fit? And that's honestly a good problem to have. Because why wait for these dudes to develop and debut when you can just have them right now, right? So I like where Baltimore is. It's just that it's a good problem to have. Where are you fitting all these guys? I'll go 2028 for him as well. He's too talented to be a guy that debuts in like 2030, right? Diamond in the rough for their top 30. I've got Wellington Arcena. He's their number 26. He was acquired from the Mets in the Gregory Soto trade at the deadline in 2025. Yeah, 2025. I've had my eyes on him ever since. This guy looks electric. 23 games, 14 starts across time with Class A St. Lucie with the Mets, Class A Delmarva, and Double A Aberdeen, which is now Double A Frederick, for those of you keeping score at home. Aberdeen is now an MLB Draft League team. The Frederick Keys are taking over. 2-2, 2.25 ERA, 92 innings pitched. So it's a lot of innings, only four decisions, but a 2.25 ERA, 51 walks to 114 strikeouts in 92 innings. He also had a ridiculously gross 152 opponent batting average and a 109 whip across 3 different teams in 2 different levels of minor league ball. This guy's progressing very nicely. He's still very young. I could see Wellington Arcena debuting in 2027 if this track continues, especially if he has a strong start to the year in AA. We could maybe even see him 2026 for Baltimore. The strength of this organizational depth is their offense. There's a lot of sweet swings in this system. We already talked about Samuel Basayo, Ike Irish. We talked about Vahiva Aloy. We also got to see guys like Wilfried Dela Cruz, acquired in the Andrew Kittredge trade last year. Creed Williams is another guy to keep an eye on. There's a lot of sweet swings in the system and a lot of good offensive numbers. And if a few other guys like Enrique Bradfield Jr. can get the bat to come around, and if Vance Honeycutt could just figure it out, man, the system would be loaded with some of the best bats in minor league baseball. Weakness, though, specifically their upper level starting pitching. Their AAA arms struggled when the big league team needed them most last year with all the injuries they dealt with and all the underperformance, and they just couldn't call any of those guys up. They couldn't justify it. But there are dudes coming. It may take a little while. I look at guys like Jerron Watts-Brown, who was also acquired in a trade with the Blue Jays last year for Sir Anthony Dominguez. I look at Wellington Arcena. I look at Nestor Herman. I also look at Braxton Bragg, so on and so forth. There's a lot of starting pitching depth in the Baltimore top 30. They're just not really at AAA quite yet.
Yeah, the Orioles have had this issue for, I don't want to say a couple years, but at least a year, right? We talked about Kobe Mayo a couple of episodes ago. He's graduated, and it's the same issue where they go out and get different guys that go in his spot, and you go, does he need to move? Is he going to be a quadruple A guy where you put him back down in Norfolk and see if he can figure it out? I want to add a quick layer to the Samuel Basayo point that you made, in that Mountcastle's at first, Adley is catching, Alonso, the big acquisition for a couple of years, if he rides the entirety of that contract, is out as your DH. Where's Basayo going to go? Is he going to be the one that has to move, or is it going to be Adley? Because Basayo just signed a Jackson Churio contract or a Ronald Acuna contract. It's 8 for $67 million. So they financially, the Orioles tied themselves to Basayo before he ever stepped, or right around when he was stepping on a big league diamond. He might have had a few games under his belt at that point. Adley's coming up on years 2 and 3 of arbitration. So they've tied themselves furthermore to Basayo before they have long-term tied themselves to Adley Rutschman. So that's another layer of one of these 4 guys has to move, and it might not be the guy who has the least amount of experience. You brought up the 70 grade arm, the 60 grade power. Sam, there might be a world where the Orioles believe more in him than they do Adley right now, which is crazy to say, but Rutschman's coming off a rough 2025, so that could factor into it too.
I don't know if it is that crazy to say, to be quite honest with you. I think you hit the nail on the head here that they did commit all that money to Samuel Basayo already. And I look, though, at the Evan White contract with the Mariners a few years ago. That was, what, 6 years, 53?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So in that range, they committed all of that money to a guy like Evan White. Is this going to be happening with Samuel Basayo now? Because he struggled in his first little taste of big league ball. Yep. I don't think it's going to, though. Evan White was getting that money as a AA first baseman. I think the ego must have gotten to the head just a little bit too much, and Evan White just never panned out. He ended up bouncing around a little bit. But I doubt Samuel Basayo has that happen to him. I feel like it'd be a little confidence issue if they paid him that money and then said, oh, by the way, you are now the starting catcher for the San Diego Padres, right? Like, that'd be a little bit of a confidence teardown on the Orioles' part if they were to do that to Samuel Basayo. I think you got to move Adley if you're going to move any of those 3. I don't think you move Ryan Mountcastle because the defense is good. It's average to good, and he can play the corner outfield spots when guys get hurt. So I think you got to keep a guy like Mountie. But it just, one of Kobe Mayo or Basayo's got to go. Yeah. They have to. There's no case for keeping both of them on the roster. Or you move Rutschman and keep those 2 on the roster, right? And I think Adley, his trade value is a little too low right now to be able to capitalize on your return. You're running into a problem where you wouldn't get enough back for Adley, but now you can't play Basayo and or Mayo, and you just signed Pete Alonso, and you don't want to wait for Kobe Mayo to turn into Pete Alonso. So That's why you went out and got him. We just talked about it earlier in the show. Get the better stick. So, excuse me. I think he starts in AAA and not on the big league roster, and I think they add another catcher to the big league roster for this very reason, so that they don't have to trade anybody right now. They can feel satisfied with 15 guys that would fit a 13-man roster, see how everything shakes out, and go from there once June comes around.
I think that's the best move, because if you're trying to trade Adley, like you just said, value is a little too low to get the ROI you're looking for. If you try to trade Basayo, which makes almost no sense to me because they just extended him, but if you tried to, well, that guy doesn't have a whole lot of a proven track record or much of a proven track record in the majors yet. He's a kick-ass prospect. He's looked really good. Everyone in the Orioles system knows he's going to turn out well. But you can't just go over to Tampa Bay and say, hey, this guy's great. He's played a handful of major league games. It didn't look good. Would you like to take over his contract? Because if he moves somewhere, contract comes with him. You got to find someone else who's going to be with him for 7 years. So I agree with you. I think Samuel stays. I think if anything, it's just, yeah, maybe a tune-up in AAA. When he gets his confidence, when he seems to be the guy that they've graded him as in their scouting department, it's his job to lose. Very odd to imagine that Adley is not an Oriole anymore, because he was supposed to be the cornerstone of this place when he was the #1 overall pick. But he might be the odd man out. They haven't extended him.
I still remember his debut where he stood behind the backstop and just took it all in.
Yep.
He was looking around and was like, man, this is the time of my life. And he was taking it all in, that he was going to be the franchise cornerstone. And in just the last few months, it just hasn't worked out that way. I don't know if you want to jump on an Adley trade yet if you're Baltimore. I think you got to keep everyone around. But it is fun to just kind of spitball that idea of who is Baltimore going to dish out next.
Yeah, there's not enough positions out there. Mountcastle's glove is too good. Alonso just came in the door. We shall see. Only time will tell. And we're going to move on to our final segment of episode 4. We're going down the ladder and going over title teams. This is our second and final team in AA, the Binghampton Rumble Ponies, AA affiliate of a team we've talked about a couple of times on this podcast already, the New York Mets. They racked up a franchise best, the Rumble Ponies did, 90 wins in the regular season last year. They won the Eastern League Championship for the first time since 2014, so not quite a drought, but going on a decade plus. Their standout performer that I'll bring up before a couple of other names is their number 13 prospect, Jack Wenninger. A lot of people look at their pipeline, look at their top 5 with guys like McLean, another one like a Yesavage who's going to be graduating pretty soon. You wouldn't really expect him to be on that list much longer. Like Jonah Tong, like Brandon Sproat, and you go, well, is there depth behind him? Or is this just going to be 2 or 3 really impressive debuts? Jack Wenninger is one of those guys. He struck out 11 while allowing 2 runs on 3 hits and 2 walks over 5 innings. In the semifinals, in Game 2, he logged 9 punch-outs over 6 scoreless. Another one of those strong pitching prospects who is far enough down the line that he may have to be a reliever when he debuts if this rotation stacks up the way I think it's going to. Either way, really promising. Their honorable mentions, Jet Williams, Jonah Tong, Ryan Clifford, 3 of the team's top 10 talents, spent the majority of the 136-game season in Binghampton. What does this mean long-term? And this is where I'll tee it up to you, Sam. Even teams that abuse the salary cap, like the Dodgers, pretty good farm system at the moment, like the Mets, pretty good farm system at the moment, they still take pride in the crop that they have coming up. Even though they know they can beat anybody in a bidding war, they still seem to take pride in having that homegrown talent. I don't know if that's just good fundamental ball or if that's them putting on their foresight glasses and looking ahead to 2027 going, we're going to have to know how to draft and develop because this whole overspending thing isn't going to fly for too much longer.
I think it's a mix of all that, and also got to incorporate how are we going to continue to afford top-end talent and top salary talent on the trade market?
Yep.
Right? If you can continue producing guys like Nolan McLean, guys like Carson Benj, guys like Jet Williams, Jonah Tong, Brandon Sproat, Jacob Reimer, the list goes on, Ryan Clifford, Jack Wenninger, keep on going down the list, guys like Dylan Ross, Ryan Lambert, Zach Thornton. How are you going to be able to continue producing some of the best talent in minor league ball if you can't spend, right? Like what I'm really trying to say is if you spend poorly and you don't have the fail safe, the team's going to lose any kind of traction that they have, is what I'm really trying to say. So if you spend poorly, you can move guys for prospects. If you spend great, you move these top-end talents that you continuously develop, or the other big spent on free agents or the big rentals to continue putting together the best possible product on the field. You can't rely on just the spending, because otherwise, what if you sign 8 Jason Bays? Yeah. Just a Mets reference here. If you sign 8 Jason Bay kind of contracts, you're screwing yourself, not only for the couple of years that you'll have all those dudes under contract, you might be screwing yourself for a couple decades if you don't have that failsafe.
Especially if we get this window we're supposed to get coming up in a salary floor and a hard salary cap. You can't just reset and go, oh, well, there goes $30 million a year. That's fine. It's not going to work out. They'll just rot on our bench. No. You don't have a whole lot of expendable space anymore if you're $30 million in the hole all of a sudden per these new rules.
On top of that, too, if that floor and cap comes around, the guys are going to have to trade to shed salary because everyone knows it's a salary shed.
Yep.
You're not going to get the best return on investment. We've been talking about that all night. With a guy like Adley Rutschman especially, you're not going to get the return on investment you want. For a guy like, I don't know, Francisco Lindor's going to have 4 years left on his deal or so. Maybe when people see you're trying to move him so you can pull up Jet Williams, they're not going to want to trade you the house and the car and all the money you have saved up for retirement. They're not going to want to trade all of that for Lindor. They know it's a salary dump. Yeah. So you need to continuously produce talent in your minor league system because, like I said, it is the end-all, be-all, fail-safe. Again, you still, though, let's just go to the Brewers. I think is their top 10 or their top 30 from like 2017. Half these guys never did anything. Lewis Brinson, Corey Ray, Josh Hader obviously was great, but Lewis Brinson, Corey Ray, Luis Ortiz, Isan Diaz never turned into anything. But you needed to have them there in case you were a team like the Dodgers who goes and spends on anything that has 2 legs and can hold a baseball bat. If that doesn't work out, you need those guys as the fail-safe. So either you can bring them up or you move them for a guy that can justify the price tag. So the Mets, it is still very important for their Double-A team in Binghampton to have won the Eastern League Championship this year. It's very important that they went and did that because guys like Ryan Clifford, guys like Jonah Tong, guys like Jet Williams, they are the future of this franchise, whether they play for the franchise or not.
And you look even further down the line before we wrap up, the Brooklyn Cyclones raised some hardware too. They'll be further down the line. Obviously, a spoiler there, but the high A affiliate won it all for the Mets. So you've got that feeder system. You have developing talent that's going to come up and perform. And you bring up a great point, Sam. If they're not going to be in your own system, especially if we're going to be in a hard salary cap era soon, you can always be rich in prospects. We're never going to be in a prospect cap era. Oh, you have too many talented guys. Nope. If you're scouting well and you're coaching well and you're developing well, guess what? You get rewarded for years and years to come. I think the Mets are doing it the right way in that regard. That's going to do it, I think, for the last episode of 2025. Cory Sparks, Sam Strash here with you, signing off. Any last words, sir, before we flip the page?
NHL, fix the playoff system. I'm going to keep saying it until it happens. I know it's not minor league baseball related, but NHL, fix the playoff system.
You plant the flag to sign us off, and we will see you all in 2026. Thank you so much for joining. You can follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts as well, Minor League Weekly, Minor League Minute on TikTok, Instagram, and of course, YouTube and Twitter as well. We will see you in the next episode. Every story starts somewhere, and in baseball, that somewhere is the minors. The breakout stars.
Early on in day 3 of the draft, the Pirates called.
The wild moments and the prospects you need to know about.
A sub-3 ERA in both single and double-A.
This is Minor League Weekly, your inside look at the future of the game.